All right, we are rolling. This is Trainer Talk, episode 2 with Grant and Colin. Today we have Jack Moses on as a guest. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. No, we're pumped. We're pumped to have you here. Fun fact for those of you that don't know, Jack was one of the first other creators I met when I first started my Twitter account back in end of 2022, and probably the first. I think you're the first person I actually connected with in person, which is cool.
Yeah, I remember you were the first person on Twitter that I got
Yeah,
on a call with. I remember
there you
distinctly,
go.
I was like about to go to my psychology class in college,
Nice.
and we had a call like 30 minutes before, and it was
Yeah,
my first call with anybody on Twitter. So I was like a bit nervous, and you had a couple
sure.
thousand followers, and I was like, oh shit. I was so nervous for that call.
That's all good,
Which
man.
and then
Yeah.
we met up a couple weeks later, and I realized
Yeah.
like, oh wow, like these creators are actually just real people. So that was really
Thanks.
cool.
Yeah,
I,
dude, absolutely. And I remember that too. I remember getting lunch or something in Chicago. I'm pretty sure we went to I forgot where it was, but yeah, that was a good time. That was a good
Yeah, it
time.
was a burger joint. I think I had like
Yeah.
two double
Oh, small
cheeseburgers or
Cheval, small
something.
Cheval. That's what it was. Yeah, small
Yeah, it
Cheval.
was good.
That place is good. But yeah,
I,
man, I think oh Colin, go ahead. What were you gonna
I remember my first call with Jack. I did everything I could just to get him to drop out of college.
say?
Hey,
I pitched it like 20 different times, I think, just for him to drop out of college.
That's
I
funny.
remember you and Matt Moore were on my ass about that. And at the time, I was like, there's no way I'm going to do it. Like, I'm at this like really prestigious school or whatever.
Yeah.
Now,
You're in
like six
Northwestern.
months later, I ended up doing it. I mean, technically, I'm still a student. I'm still like enrolled, but I haven't enrolled in classes for like 7 months now. So there's probably a zero, like a 1% chance I go back, barring like a really unforeseen circumstance. But now I
Sure.
see what you were talking about, Colin. Like this
Yeah.
creator stuff, I think the upside is a little bit higher.
Um,
Yeah. That's
Worst
awesome.
case scenarios, I mean, you can always go back.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Worst case, just
Yeah,
drop
like
out,
as
just do
long as
it.
you're in good stand. I know, like, because I remember when I was at Caltech, one of my friends actually dropped out and started his own like self. It was like a burger. It was like an AI that did like burger flipping basically, or like a robot that did it. And he had like a startup that he started with some other like alums, and like at the time he dropped out and went and did it. And I don't know if he ended up ever coming back to finish his degree, but basically the admin told him like he could come back because he was, as long as he was in good academic standing, which like this kid was like one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. So he was crushing the classes clearly. But yeah, dude, that's a ballsy decision. I like props to you for doing that because I finished my degree. I was like years out of college before I even got into this shit. But that's awesome, man. Very cool stuff.
Yeah, I feel fortunate that I found this side of the internet early.
Yeah,
Because I was very much on the finance track and I would have done
yeah,
that. I had a finance internship, etc. But I
nice.
found this side of the internet and I was like, I have 2 years of college left to figure this
Yeah,
out so that I don't have to go work this job. And luckily, it happened a lot quicker than I ever
yeah,
could have expected. And I think that's
nice.
just the power of social media, like
Yeah,
connecting with guys like you and just making all these insane connections.
thanks, bro. Yeah, dude. Yeah, exactly. It is a very powerful. To your point from earlier, and I think this was kind of the first question I was going to ask you, which you kind of almost already answered a little bit, was like kind of what made you want to get into Twitter and what made you want to kind of get into this space. But yeah, I mean, like to your point, the upside is super super high. And when I mean, like I think a lot of us are still like kind of trying to get to that next level and that next kind of that next point. But once you get there, if and when you get there, it's the payoff is very much real. And you're kind of in charge of your own business, your own schedule, all that stuff, which is obviously a huge benefit.
Yeah, I can definitely go off that. Like the number one thing for me, the number one driving motivator is freedom and autonomy. And
Yeah.
now that I'm even in this spot where I can just create my own schedule, it's phenomenal. And I know you can resonate with this, Grant.
Yep.
Given that you were a college baseball player, like you always have that structure built into your life. And then
Right.
once you become this entrepreneur or creator,
Yeah.
you have to build it. And at the start, like that's a bit of a big responsibility because you have all this time. It's like, what do I do with it? But that's the practicality of lifestyle design and really honing in on like, this is when I work best. This is when I can have no distractions. This is when I can go hit the gym. This is when I
Yeah.
can do a podcast. And your whole life
Dude.
becomes this very optimized schedule, which I love.
Dude, I'm in the same boat, and that was actually this is a question I have for both of you guys. Is I guess like what kind of techniques do you use to make sure that with that kind of all that freedom you have, that you're still getting done kind of the stuff that you need to get done? Because I mean, like for me, I can kind of go first. Like what I use is I have every day I have like a power list in the morning, and I just write down a lot of this stuff is the same day to day. So it's stuff like going through, doing some comments on Twitter, going through the people who commented on my posts, replying to DMs, checking in on clients, seeing how they're doing, things like that. But I just have that all listed out very nicely, and that's what kind of works for me. But curious to see kind of what you guys do to kind of address that.
Yeah, Colin, you can go ahead if you want real quick.
I mean, I think I'm a terrible person to ask regarding this question because I mean, I have a power list, but there's like 2 or 3 items on it, and it's just respond to people on Twitter, and that involves comments, anybody that DM me, anything in that realm, and then the other ones is going to the gym. And
Yeah.
I mean, I do the same thing every day. I don't consider it work a single bit. I love what I do, and so every day it's just the same thing I'm doing, and I don't
Sure.
hate it. There's nothing I dislike about it, and so I wake up, I open up my MacBook, drink too much coffee, respond to people, and talk to clients all day and talk to future
Yeah.
clients.
Sure. Nice. And Jack, what about you?
Yeah, I think I'm a bit more regimented and structured, but I can agree with you that like a lot of this stuff doesn't feel like work. Like this from the outside could look like work, but just having a conversation, it's not really work.
I agree.
But I'm pretty detailed in terms of like using my Sunday very strategically to plan out my week, plan out my content, and then having a very regimented morning, especially the afternoons I leave more free. But the morning is like I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna go to Starbucks from like 6 to 10, and I'm going to do these lever moving tasks, like you said, Grant. So it's like
Yeah.
90 minutes of building. I'm building a course in a curriculum right now, which is the main
Cool.
priority. So I put that first. And then the second
Yep.
thing is writing the content. So depending on the day, it's like a newsletter, or it's a thread or tweets, or it's batching tweets for the week. And then usually that third block, I'll post my long tweet for the day. And then when I post that long tweet, I try to be on the platform doing my networking at the same time, just to pick up that traction and steam and the algorithm. And then usually around 10, like if I want to be done, I can be done. I'll go hit the gym, I'll go hop on calls, and then ideally, usually by like noon, I'm done. I'm like majorly done. If I want to
Yeah.
do more work, I will, but I'm not
Yeah.
forcing myself to.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, I think like for me, it kind of depends on like what kind of phase of the business you're at. I mean, for me, it's kind of like I guess I kind of do this a similar approach where I'll try to knock out most of my stuff in the morning, including like workouts. Like I just consider working out. Like now I just consider it part of my like daily just kind of business task routine. Because at the end of the day, right, especially if you're in the fitness niche, it's like not only does the working out like the fitness, it helps with your focus, your clarity, all that stuff that Colin and I are always tweeting out about how all the benefits, but it's also like if you're a fitness coach, it's like you got to walk the walk too. You can't just be like kind of half-assed in the gym. You got to really get after it and set ambitious goals and push yourself. So that's definitely something. But yeah, man, I mean, like I try to knock out just stuff as quickly as possible. In the afternoons, it kind of depends. I mean, sometimes it's like I have calls with clients, sometimes I have sales calls scheduled and things like that. But sometimes it's more chill, and I think that's one of the nicer things about kind of having your own schedule. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely resonate. And I find if I try to do those really focused tasks for more than 4 hours, my productivity just goes completely down. So having that time to really recharge and go hit the gym, go on a walk, don't think about work, it helps me the next day come back and hit it really hard.
Facts, dude. Yeah, facts. And that's the same thing for me is like I think I'll always try to just like crank out like the more kind of like difficult or like I guess just maybe like nuisancey, like annoying kind of tasks like first thing, and then boom, you hit the gym. For me, it's like I hit the gym for an hour, come back pretty recharged, go do another couple hours of work, boom, hit a lunch break, and then you kind of get back into it. But taking those breaks is like really important, or else it's like doing that shit for like hours in a row is just it's a lot. So
I have mine set up where I have a timer, not on my phone. I put my phone complete opposite room whenever it's time to do deep work. I have like just a little basic timer. Every 90 minutes it goes off, and I have to get up and have to go walk for 10 minutes. Or I get
nice.
up, I go use the restroom. I am forcing myself to step away and just
Nice.
recharge, grab something,
Sure.
grab a snack to eat. And I found that
Sure.
has been most beneficial for me personally.
That's huge. Yeah, dude, that's something I should start doing too, honestly, because I kind again, I have the breaks generally kind of just naturally programmed in, but having that kind of a timer going off is huge. Tough thing for me is like I'll oftentimes just like leave my phone like in the other room or like away from me so it doesn't distract me when I'm trying to like be productive or do something important. But I'm totally with you on that one. Cool,
Yeah,
cool.
I think taking a little reset, like a walk, I'm so into that right now, Colin. Like
Yeah.
I'm at Starbucks and I'll leave after 90 minutes. I'll go walk around the neighborhood for like 10 minutes when I come back and they're like, what the hell is this kid doing? But they don't understand. Like I'm trying to recharge to hit it again.
There's a local coffee shop that I go to mostly every day, and it's gotten to the point now where like I'll put all my stuff in my backpack, and like I'll hand it to them behind the counter so like nothing happens to it. And like it's like on a routine. Like they know at this time every day I'm handing them my backpack and I'll be back in about 10 minutes.
That's dope.
Nice.
Yeah, having that connection with the baristas or whoever works at the coffee shop, it makes your day so much better. Like I go in there and they know me by name. They have my coffee like at this point literally ready for me, but I don't even have to
Wow,
order it. They just like bring it to me. I'm like, this is
that's so
insane.
funny.
And it just raises your energy too when like you become friends with the people behind the counter.
Yeah.
That's wild. Dang, that's wild. See, because for me, I've always just done all my work in my apartment, like at home by myself. But I think it all depends. Like you have to kind of do that trial and error process and figure out like what works best for you. I find whenever I'm like has minimal distractions, I'm in the best zone. I also don't drink coffee too, which is
Yeah.
probably why the coffee shop wouldn't work so well for me. But I know you
Grant's
get
not
Wow.
Grant's not a caffeine addict. He's a good
not
person
really.
to his body.
Caffeine
Treats his
addict.
body with some respect.
No, I respect the coffee shop. I have been in like a few coffee shops before, and it is like a good environment. It's just
The best
Have
thing
you
is
never been a caffeine guy at all?
never, man. No, pretty much never. I
Wow.
think the
lucky
only
you.
times I've ever had like I tried. There was one year where I tried to do pre-workout like a little bit, and I just never. I didn't really notice much of a difference. I'm just like, I'm just not going to do this. But
Damn.
yeah, no, I've never been. And the reason was always like I just didn't want to be dependent on it to like force myself to function. But like, I don't know. I mean, there's degrees of it, right? Like, there's some people who are like probably actually super dependent on it. But then there's some people where it's like, okay, like if I didn't have this today, it's not like I'm gonna be like a zombie. Like I'll still be able to get what I need to do done. But I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, I think it's a superpower if you don't need it. I know some of the bigger people I look up to, like Chris Williamson is a podcaster. He quit caffeine for like 500 days or something.
Wow.
And it kind of reframed it for me because I'd gotten to the point where I was pretty dependent. Now,
Sure.
I don't know if I'd say I'm dependent, but I definitely enjoy it a lot. But ideally, like you would just be in that high energy state naturally. I mean, think
Yeah.
like as kids, we were so high energy. We never had caffeine or
True.
stimulants or
It's very
anything.
true. It's very
So
true.
to be able to get back to that would be ideal. And I think that's why, I mean, you were saying earlier, Colin, about like it doesn't feel like work. And that's the thing. If you're doing something where you're really aligned, I think you tap into that infinite energy. You don't need outside stimulants and supplements.
Yeah. Definitely.
I mean, whenever I am like truly in my deep work, like I'll have a coffee next to me, but the first thing I always grab is always my water. And then like during my walks is when I'll get up, I'll grab my coffee. And that's why I found it's been most beneficial is if I'm sipping on it, then I know I'm either the work's going to be so bad because I'm just so rushed with it, or it's going to just be, I'm just going to sit there and stare at it because my brain's having 10 different thoughts going through it.
Is it because you get too jittery with it?
I think it's probably because I have too much. I
Okay.
get jittery because I think there's too much in me, but it's not necessarily like it's just like I'm rushing. Like I'm trying to like this 90 minutes. I'm like, okay, I gotta get this done. And then I'm like, wait, I have 20 different things to get done, but the next 90 minutes I have 4 things. And so whenever that caffeine's in me, I'm like, okay, I gotta get these 20 things done. I gotta write this thread for this day, this thread, this versus I'm like, okay, I'll have a sip and then I'm like, okay, I can knock out these 2 threads, get up and walk, have a couple drinks, and then I can knock out step by step through that.
I gotcha. Yeah, I think approaching it from that more balanced mentality is probably smart. I've combated the jitteriness and the anxiety that comes from coffee with L-theanine. Have you heard of L-theanine at
I've
all?
heard of it, yeah.
I've heard of it. I've never tried it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, so it's like a compound that's usually in green tea or like matcha, and it kind of combats the anxiety from caffeine. So if you can combine theanine with coffee, I realize like you enter this calm state of focus rather than this like super tense, anxious state of focus. Because coffee will do that to you, especially if you're having a lot.
Nice. Yeah, that's interesting. Have you ever done just like the green tea matcha by itself? Because it sounds like that's essentially the effect you're looking for, where you get the caffeine with the L-theanine. And my girlfriend likes matcha, which is why I'm asking. But
Yeah, no, I like it. I just love coffee so much that I want to have coffee every day, especially Starbucks. Like I'm definitely
sure,
addicted to Starbucks at this point, but I might have to try out the green tea actually now that I'm
there you
talking
go.
through it.
There you
I,
go. Yeah.
I've tried just the pure matcha, and it tastes like grass.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the
Sure.
taste of it was
I could
just
see
so
that.
bad that I was like, I can't drink this and
I could see
be
that.
enjoyed with my life.
I could see
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I've tried it before as well, and it's not my favorite. So, um, anyway, cool. Jack, one big question I kind of wanted to ask you on this podcast was like and I think we kind of touched on it earlier when we were talking about like how you dropped out of school and really went all in on this. And Colin, it sounds like you also had a role in this decision. So I'm interested to hear this from your perspective too. But like, I guess like what kind of triggered that? What kind of made that really be, like kind of the direction you wanted to take your life? Because I think I don't know if we hit on this earlier too. Like you were playing at one point, you were playing Division I football at Northwestern too, and you kind of went, you kind of left that whole world behind and went and did your own thing. So I'm just very interested to hear just from your perspective, like how that decision went down, man.
Yeah, so I think to fully give it context, I probably have to back up like 2 years from today. So 2 years ago, around this time, I was doing two things. I was playing on Division I football team, and I was starting a startup app with some Northwestern classmates and peers and friends. And it was all going really well. We thought the app was going to be a huge success. We got like 1,000 downloads in a day, etc. And I
Oh,
thought football was going to start going really well too. I won practice player of the week. I made the travel team. I got in a game. It was garbage time, but I got in a game for
hey,
the first time. And I was like, holy shit, like I'm on top of the world. And then the next week, I tore my ACL in practice on Wednesday. And then Thursday, our startup exploded like from the inside. We basically had a bunch of disagreements and we had some burnout. And that's another long story. But basically, I went in a complete 180. And then from that
yeah,
moment on, I didn't know what I was going to do. I ended up doing a finance internship. I didn't really love it. Um, I ended up quitting football around March after like looking in the transfer portal. And then up to that summer, I really still had no idea who I was without football because it's your whole identity when you're a college
yeah,
athlete.
sure,
And so I went
definitely,
and backpacked Europe because I had my first summer free, and that was a huge change as well. And then I came back to school, found the creator economy, started posting on Twitter, and then around January, I moved to San Francisco for a study abroad program for college. And when I was there, things started to click. I started to make a lot of connections with my podcast. I got my first couple ghostwriting gigs. I made a
yeah,
really good friend. His name's Matt Mick. He's a writer on Twitter too. And he was in a very similar spot to me in terms of thinking about leaving college, but not sure. And he was going to study abroad in Argentina. And he put the idea in my head. He's like, dude, what if you just put school on pause and came to Argentina? And I was like, shit. At first, I was like, no way. But then I sat and thought
yeah,
on it, and I consulted some bigger creators who I really trusted their opinion, like Dakota Robertson and Taylor Simmons. And I was like, what do you think? Do you think like I need a degree to do any of this stuff? And they're like, no. Dakota's like, I dropped out, and Taylor's like, I have a degree and it didn't help me at all. Um, and then just looking to bigger people like that I aspire to be like or look up to, like Dan Coe, for example, he dropped out of college too. And I just started to think more and more like anything that degree would qualify me for, like a job I didn't want. And I came to
sure,
the conclusion like I'd rather figure it out online. I'd rather freelance, figure it out, do my own thing. If I have to like DoorDash or become a waiter, like I'd rather do that than sit in an office and work a 9 to 5. And when that
there you go.
happened, I just decided, I'm gonna put school on pause. I'm gonna go to Argentina and I'm just gonna do this thing. And
It's
6 months
wild.
later, I can say that was like one of the best decisions because at
That's
the
for sure.
time my attention was so split between like, okay, I'm gonna do this creator stuff, but I still have to focus on studying and doing all this bullshit for school. And once you cut that out and you just have extreme focus on one thing, you go so much further. So that's kind of the whole story. But I just realized that if I was able to give this my full attention, it would work. But half-assing it, I didn't
Yeah.
see working out either way.
I see. Yeah, no, that checks out, man. That checks out. I think like I mean, yeah, first again, like I said earlier, like props to you for making that decision and for taking the jump and doing it because it's something that a lot of people don't do for a lot of different reasons. And I think it's crazy to hear too, like you had the ACL tear and the kind of startup falling through like all in the same week. And like then you just kind of it's like one door closes and another opens, right? So like, obviously that was at the time probably felt like a huge setback, but it almost kind of sets you up to do all this other stuff down the line. So that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I look back at that with a lot of gratitude that both of those things happened, but in the moment, you can't see it. You can't see why it's all happening. But like 2 years later, I'm like, thank God that that all happened, or else I wouldn't have gone down this path. So it's kind of a cliche, but people are always like, everything happens for a reason. And I think that's true as long as you approach it with that mindset of like, okay, I don't know why this is happening, but there's something bigger in store for me. There's some reason because I feel like we can make our own reasons.
Definitely.
So I know you went from Argentina and then you were in Costa Rica after that. What made you decide to take the jump to move back home to Chicago with your parents?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I fell in love with traveling when I backpacked Europe last summer, but I was a college kid and I hadn't even started on Twitter. I had no responsibilities and it was like pure freedom. And so that travel was really attractive to me. The thing is, I noticed when I was trying to travel and build a business, I wasn't doing either very well. I was half-assing the business because I wanted to spend time at the beach, surfing, meeting people. And then I wasn't fully wanting to meet people or like do that travel lifestyle because I wanted to focus on my business. And so I was like, okay, like this season of life I'm in right now, I want to pivot out of ghostwriting. I want to build my own thing. I need undivided focus. And to do that, I was like, if I go back home with my parents, barely any of my high school friends are home. I could just basically lock in and go into a monk mode. And then also another factor in that was like when you're traveling, you have plane rides, you have Airbnbs, you have groceries and food, and you're honestly it's pretty month to month, especially when you're starting off as a creator, entrepreneur. And I was always in this scarcity mindset of like, oh shit, like how am I going to pay next month's rent? Like, oh shit, I have to figure out how to pay this bill. And being back home now, I can just act from abundance where I'm like, I have those base needs met and I'm really fortunate that I do. And I
Right.
can just start to think in longer term time increments because when I was in Costa Rica, my vision was probably capped at like a month max versus now at home I'm starting to think in like 1 year, 2 year, 3 year time increments and be able to see much farther because I don't have to operate from scarcity.
Very cool. Yeah, I think that resonated with me pretty hard. I think like when you were saying like the traveling and like making the decision to kind of to you tried it out and then you kind of ended up going back was like that's like a big reason why I haven't traveled, even though like I left my corporate job about a year and a half ago to go in on online business and do my own thing. And I think like I could have probably traveled more. I did a trip out west to like see a bunch of national parks like right at the beginning. And then I went to like New York for a week to visit my friends and see my brother's graduation and stuff. But like other than like a few other trips like within the US, I really haven't done that much traveling. And it's mainly just because I'm trying to just go really hunker down and build. And I don't know. Colin, what do you think? Are you doing any traveling down there or not a ton?
No, I'm the same way as Jack. Like I need a more and safer environment to work in. Like if you threw
Yeah.
me out in the wild, I'd find a way to make it work, but I don't want to worry about when my next meal is or if I'm going to be able to afford rent next month or
Yeah.
if I have the basic necessities I need to work to survive in.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, because
It's like
I really feel like when you're operating from that place of like worry, you're gonna make worse decisions. You're gonna need things from people. You're gonna be more sales. You're gonna be more transactional.
yeah,
Whereas I really believe when you don't expect anything from anybody and you can just focus on making connections versus needing something from them, that'll pay off much more in the long run.
facts.
So I feel like it's all about seasons of life. Like travel is phenomenal, and I love it. But when you're in these early stages, like we are, like you need that focus.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree. And I like traveling is something once I get things a bit more established too that I want to do more of. I've hoped like honestly like my hope and my goal is that sometime this winter I can go and spend like a month somewhere warm. I don't know where, but like dude, I like Chicago winter gets pretty brutal, and Indiana I'm sure is not much different down there, Colin. But
I mean, you could come spend a month with me here.
sure, but it's still gonna be cold, man. I mean, why don't we maybe we all go to like Mexico or something for a month? I don't know, we'll figure it out. But
Hey,
uh,
my high school weights coach told me this one saying that I live by. Coldness is just a mindset.
yeah. Well,
If
I
you
mean,
t-
it's not that. God,
if you tell yourself you're warm over and over, eventually you're gonna believe it.
it's fair. It's fair. It's not that I can't deal with the cold. Like we've all grew up in this stuff, and it's like we're pretty accustomed to it. It's just if I could avoid it. It's not. So I definitely would. So that's kind of how I see it. But
Yeah, I agree. I'm actually trying to move somewhere warmer come January again.
nice.
It's dependent on like how a few things go in terms of
Yeah.
income and all this stuff. But
Mm,
I realized that a really big part of my business, my creativity, my mental health, my overall physical health is very predicated on being outside and walking. Like it's
mm,
so important. Like if
yeah.
I'm getting
Sure.
15 to 20K steps a day, I'm super aligned. Like my
Yeah.
mind is working better too. Versus when it comes January and it's going to be 0 degrees here, it's like you can't really get outside for a walk, like unless you wear like 10
True.
layers, which
It's
sucks.
true. It's true.
Coldness,
Yeah.
coldness
Go.
is just a mindset.
Colin's just a badass, bro. I don't have
I'm
that
just
type
a
of
badass.
mindset.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. No, I'm with you, Jack. I think like getting outside and going on those walks is something that like for me, like up until like historically up until like maybe within the past half a year or so, I was pretty much just going to the gym, doing the gym workouts, and that was pretty much all I was hitting was like powerlifting style training and like not really doing anything else. And then like this past few months or so, like training for the Chicago Marathon really 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 changed my perspective on all that, and I actually started to really enjoy. It's like one of the first times in my life I actually like enjoyed running. Like I always hated running and like conditioning for sports and shit, but like once I got into marathon training, it was like being able to spend out time outside and just running along the lake up and down the like Michigan and Chicago has been like, so those are usually my favorite workouts now. So
Oh yeah. Did you end up running the Chicago Marathon?
I did. Yeah, I did, man. I ran a 4:39. So my goal was to get under 4. But I was like based on my training and everything, I thought that was super realistic. Like I did my 20-mile run at like sub 4 pace and I was like fine with that. But during the race, I don't think I was taking in enough electrolytes. And so by mile 18 or 19, I cramped really bad, like to the point I
Mhm.
had to like sit down for a bit. So ended up not getting the sub 4, unfortunately, but it was still a great experience. I already entered the lottery for next year. Like I'm like trying to make like distance running a part of my kind of hybrid athlete approach. Hopefully next year I want to
Yeah.
do like of some kind.
Damn, that's awesome. Are you
Yeah.
into like Nick Bear and his content?
Yes, dude, that's so funny you brought that up. I was literally going to mention it. It was like I started following like his he has this whole YouTube series he does where it's like how he got from I don't know where his time was before, but it was basically training for his sub like 250 marathon. It's
Yeah.
pretty interesting because I think I always had the misconception that like if you're a heavier guy, like a more muscular, like built, like a gym bro essentially, right? That you couldn't run and that you couldn't like perform well in a race if you're like that heavy because he actually went through literally in the video I watched today. He was talking about it. He's like 6 foot, like 200, 205, which is like right around like pretty much exactly where I am right now. And he was still able to, run like sub 3 hour marathon, which is like insanely fast for people who don't know. Like that's like
Yeah.
like 50 per mile pace, which is like insane. And
Yeah.
like it changed my whole perspective on running training.
Yeah, that dude is a savage. I got
Yeah,
super into his content probably about a year ago. I was really big into
sure.
running like last year. I was doing a whole
Yeah, yeah,
hybrid
yeah,
hybrid approach thing.
yeah,
And I ended up like lifting 5 days a week, running 5 days a week, running the half, the Chicago half. And then I
yeah,
was planning on doing a marathon in San
yeah.
Francisco when I was out there. But then I realized that, okay, it's such a huge time investment to train for
is.
that thing.
It
And you
is.
could get those 10 hours a week back and focus them more on the creator stuff. And I
Yeah.
realized, at least in this phase of my life, like the physical stuff is really important. But
Yeah.
the number one priority is the mental stuff for me. It's like ideas and writing and reading. And so the ROI was kind of like, okay, do I actually want to do this marathon, or am I just doing it because I'm trying to like prove to myself I could do it?
Yeah.
But it is
I
something I
get
want to
that.
do at some point in the future, just not this season of life. I don't
I
think.
get that 100%. Yeah, no, and that's like that's a trade-off that like I was constantly thinking about, because even like with my marathon prep for this last one was not like anything too crazy. Like I think I worked up to like 30 miles a week, like at the peak weeks, and like that was pretty much it. But I realized that like if I want to actually kind of take this seriously and get more into it, like it's going to take, running 50, 60 miles a week at the peak, and just kind of having to accept that, like, oh, maybe like on this Saturday, instead of, going and watching the Cubs game with some friends or whatever, like we're going to have to be out on
Yeah.
like Front Trail putting in 25 miles,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's just reality. So
Yeah, that's the thing about Nick Bear that really amazes me too, is like
yeah,
he's able to do all that with a full-time
yeah,
business and maintain a huge muscular physique. And he has a
yeah,
wife, and I think he has a kid now
yeah,
too.
he does. He
And it's
does.
like, how the hell is he doing this stuff?
Yeah, it's pretty wild, man. I don't know. Colin, you're a big runner, aren't you, man?
I the last time I ran more than a mile, I'd have to say it was probably high school. I've ran up to a mile since then, but I I don't know. Like I just can't get into it. I don't find any enjoyment out of it. Like everyone says that runner's high. I get runner's like fatigue. Like I am shot after running too. But like the other day on Saturday, Matt Moore, Joey, and Peyton were still in town. And I think we played like 3 hours straight of 2-on-2 basketball.
Mm,
But
Nice.
if you told me to go out
yeah,
there for a run, I am going to find every single possible way in my mind to get out of it.
interesting.
But I'll go outside and run for 3 hours on a basketball court. But
Interesting.
Who's the best player out of you for basketball? I'm curious.
I mean, we played on a 7-foot goal. So
Oh,
ultimately it was whoever could jump the highest. But I
Yeah.
mean, like
that's
Peyton was dogging us because if you ever seen that dude's fucking massive.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, terms of IQ, it would be me or Matthew because we played growing up. But
yeah.
you have a 6 foot tall, 190-pound muscle man running at you. It's not much you can
That's just
do.
funny. I could see Peyton just like standing under the board and the hoop and grabbing rebounds and shit.
Well, it got to the point where we realized how bad Peyton was. So it was a
This is funny because we're gonna have him and Matt on the podcast probably pretty soon.
me and him were
Like,
we
hopefully,
were
he doesn't watch this part back.
it was a me and him were on a team and we were playing to 11. It was just 2v2, ones and twos.
Yeah.
And I, as soon as I'd get the ball, I'd just pass it right to him, no matter what. I was giving him the ball. I'm like, Peyton, go post him up. And he'd get down there and he'd jump, try to do like a Dirk Nowitzki fadeaway and throw it off the rim, shot it over the basket, shot it over the goal more times than I can count. And we're just cracking up. And then Matthew figured out how to actually stop him. And so he let Payne go up and he'd block it. And it'd probably go a solid 50 foot away. And then every time he'd put his head down, he had a little jog over to get the ball. But I mean, we ended up winning. So that was a good thing, but it wasn't anything, was not pretty at all to watch.
Now that's awesome. You guys are playing 2v2 like that. Like that's something I have not done enough recently, is like playing sports with friends. It's so important. I was playing a little bit of like one-on-one route football with two friends yesterday. We played for like 10 minutes before everybody was too tired and we had to call it quits, but it was so much fun. Like I hadn't done that in a year.
Dude,
Yeah.
one thing that I am happy I got into this fall is I joined a flag football league down here. It's literally just like Jack. It's basically like the Lake Forest High School, like starting like receivers and like
Really?
quarterbacks and shit. Some of us at least. I also didn't start, but like a lot of the starters played. Anyway, but yeah, that's been super fun. Even though we've actually been like surprisingly we've been like pretty horrible just because we like we don't really have plays. We kind of just go out and like wing it. And like the other teams have like plays and shit, and like it is what it is. But I don't know. That's getting out and playing sports is super fun. You guys both follow. I'm sure you guys probably both follow Jordan Goldstein.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I was on a space with
Yeah.
him a couple weeks ago. He's
Oh,
awesome.
sweet. Dude, he's the man. Yeah, Jordan's the man. But like he always talks about, all his tweets are all about like playing sports and like having that still be a part of your life, even once you're like an adult. Because I think too many people get away from sports and competition, and like, oh, there's so many benefits that can have if you're staying into that stuff.
Yeah. I think most people, as soon as they like graduate high school and they played a sport, they're like, oh, can't play anymore. They just practically give up. And then, I mean, ultimately, if you were an athlete in high school, that is your ambition. That's the drive. That's what
Yeah.
you're just trying to do, is play sports all the time.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that. I mean, yeah, you might go and play adult league flag football and you might lose every game or you might suck compared to teams, but getting out there with your friends, not worrying about a coach yelling at you, not worrying about who's watching, you just go out there and have fun.
Yep.
They severely underestimate the mental health benefits that can provide for you.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And this actually kind of dovetails nicely into the next kind of question I was going to ask Jack. But essentially, like Colin, I think I totally agree with you that getting out there, playing sports, competing is huge for like physical and mental health. And I think for me, like having the chance to run this marathon in like a few weeks ago, it was like one of the first times in a while that, like, you know, you have like a big crowd of people cheering you on. You have all that kind of energy and excitement going, and it's something I really missed from growing up, from playing like high school sports, college baseball, all that stuff. And it's something I missed out. But
Yeah, I resonate with that. There's nothing that compares to being in the arena and you have like
yeah,
thousands of people there. It's crazy. And then you
yep,
just stop, right? And then you become
yep,
the person in the stands. It's pretty
yep,
strange.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And it's like there's nothing wrong with, I think some people, or I've seen this kind of opinion on Twitter before, of like, oh, you shouldn't, like, you can never watch like sports, you can never enjoy sports. And I don't really agree with it. Like, I think you can still watch and enjoy and be a fan of sports, but it's also like that shouldn't be the only thing that you're doing, right? That's like if you're just only consuming social media and never like creating or putting
Right.
out stuff of your own. So that's kind of how I look at it. But anyway, next question I was going to ask you, Jack, was but just like now that you know, obviously not playing football anymore, I think you mentioned like doing some running training for the 13-1. Like, what are kind of the main ways that you're staying active now and that you're staying healthy?
Yeah, so I'm trying to do this more holistic health approach. So a couple of the main pillars are like the diet, just trying to limit processed foods and seed oils as much as possible
There you
and
go.
just focusing on protein.
Sure.
Just trying to stay somewhat lean and in shape. And then as far as the actual physical movement, it's walking is huge. Like if I can get 12K plus steps a day, I'm in a good spot. Some days I'll
Yeah.
be at like 20 to 22, which those are the best days. Like it's actually
Sure.
funny. I always feel more energized on those days than I do on the days where I get like 5K steps. It's so counterintuitive. But in
Yeah.
terms of the gym, I'm doing 3 days a week lifting right now. So I'll go Monday, I'll go upper body. So like a whole upper body lift. Wednesday I'll do lower, and then Friday I'll do another upper. And I'm following Grego Gallagher's reverse pyramid training. He's Kino Body on Instagram or
You know
Twitter if
about
you've
it.
seen him.
I've heard of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And so basically it's like you do your heaviest set first. So you'll go like 4 to 6 reps at your heaviest weight. And the next set, you'll go 8 to 10 reps at a moderate weight. And then the last set, you'll go highest reps and lowest weight. So it's kind of a counterintuitive approach, but I've noticed like it's helped me get a lot stronger and put on muscle lifting
Interesting.
wise. And
Sure.
then I'm trying to hit like 2 to 3 30-minute runs a week, just honestly for the cardiovascular benefits and the mental benefits.
Yep. Sure.
And then I'm doing yoga like 3 days a week, which I love yoga. I never did it before,
Nice.
probably the past couple months, but it's become one of the
Nice.
best parts of my week. It's phenomenal. Have
Nice.
either of you guys tried yoga ever?
I've tried yoga, but there's not a yoga near me. There's the closest one's like over half an hour away. And
Yeah.
I don't see the benefits of driving I'd be driving over an hour a day or three times a week versus I know enough to keep my body loose, to keep my mind sharp, but I don't have that classroom feel with an instructor or anything.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's funny. I've done yoga once or twice with my mom. So my mom loves yoga. She goes like probably similar to you, like 2 or 3 times a week, Jack. And uh, it's the times that she does hot yoga, so it's a little different than traditional yoga. But
I love hot yoga,
I'm gonna be
honestly.
yeah,
honest.
yeah, yeah.
What is hot yoga? Like I see your mom
It's
talking about it all the time. I'm like, what is she like?
That's
Are
so
they in a
funny.
fucking sauna or something, sweating their asses off while stretching? Like,
Yeah, it's basically, yeah. I mean,
oh
it's like
shit,
the room is
actually,
like 100, 110 degrees, and you're basically just doing yoga. I'm
oh
pretty sure.
dude, I was just throwing that shit out there. I didn't think it was actually yoga
No,
in the
no, it's
Yeah.
sauna.
actually
it's intense too. Like
yeah,
I kind of used to disregard yoga as just like stretching, but there's different types. Like
yeah,
there's a flow, there's more of like a yin class, which would be like literally just stretching, and there's things in between. But if
yeah,
you get into like the hot yoga and it's like
yeah.
moving, like it's hard. It's
I was
really
sweating a
hard.
lot for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. It
feels
was a
good.
good, it was a good workout, but yeah, I enjoyed it. Not something I do super regularly, but my mom is always trying always trying to push me back into it. That's funny. But
Yeah, I
that
find it's very helpful two ways. I think it's very helpful combating some of the lifting because I think with lifting you get so
sure,
compressed and you like your spine compresses, your
it's true.
posture, and then like right now I'm sitting in a chair and I'm sitting all the time when I'm working, and it helps
Yeah,
me really stretch out. And I legitimately think I've grown like an inch or two by doing it
really
consistently for 6 months.
interesting.
Yeah. It like your
Interesting.
posture, your back, like I can lean over and touch the ground. Like I can palm the ground now. And it's like
Yeah.
I could never do that when I played sports. I wish I would have gotten more into yoga.
Wow. Dang. That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, you're really hard selling this. I gotta
You gotta
I
try,
really
bro.
gotta hop in the yoga grind. That's really cool. That's interesting what you were saying too earlier about the Kino body and how that program's kind of worked for you. Cause like I don't know, I mean, like I'm in the same boat where like at this point now it's like I'm well beyond the like beginner gains phase. I think we all are at this point. Like it's almost like I'm always just I'm experimenting with new stuff. I'm trying out new stuff. I found this new program on Instagram that I've been kind of doing called hypertrophy clusters. And the idea with that is it's like instead of doing so like a common rep scheme might be something like 4 sets of 10 or maybe 5 sets of 8 or something like that for hypertrophy. And instead of doing 4 sets of 10, it kind of flips it on its head and you do 10 sets of 4 with like a short rest in between. And it's essentially you're still able to accumulate the same volume, but you actually are able to do the working sets at a much higher weight than you would have been able to. So that you're effectively able to, essentially get greater hypertrophy benefits. It's been interesting so far. I'm interested to see how it kind of translates back when I get into more of a strength block. But about like trying out new stuff. I'll have to check out Kino Body too, and check out some of those programs.
Yeah, we would actually do some of those clusters in college football. Now that you bring it up, we would
Really?
switch it up a lot. But yeah, we would
Yeah.
go like we'd even go like 10 sets of 2 reps and just try to like go
Yeah.
as fast as you can.
Yeah. Sure.
I don't know all the philosophy or science behind why they were having us do all this stuff, but
Sure.
it seems like there's so many different ways to approach training.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. Colin, what's your training look like nowadays, brother?
About 3 times a week, I'll hit a regular strength training. It'll be just I'll do bench or I do like bench squat or deadlift at like a 4x6 to 8, and then after that, 2 sets till failure. I forget to count halfway through my reps, so I just 2 sets of failure, and then I usually hit 1 to 2 mobility sessions a week, depending on how I feel, depending on honestly if I feel like making the time for it, and then I hit about 2 or 3 CrossFit workouts a week as well.
Nice, nice. Very cool. Yeah, I know I forget you're in the CrossFit. You're in the
I,
CrossFit zone now.
I think it's just so much fun. Like it's like it sucks because like I can't like isolate. Like I'm not isolating my biceps. I'm not isolating this specific muscle group. But like today, like I think the workout is like a mile run, 60 deadlifts at 225, and then 20 bar muscle ups, and you partition them
Whoa.
however you want. And so like in my mind, I'm like, okay, like my goal is to win. Like they're there to get better. I'm there to fucking win. Like I am going to beat you guys, and I'm going to do it better. So like in my mind, I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this to where I can run, but I still have, I got 60 deadlifts to do. And that, I mean, 225 is not heavy, but
Yeah, you
after
probably knocked that
60,
all out in like 1 or 2 sets.
Yeah, like I like that's the thing is like 1 or 2 sets of that, then I'm going to be gassed for that run. So I'm trying to figure out what's going to be best, and like the bar muscle ups are they're just going to suck no matter how I decide to partition those.
Yeah, muscle ups. That's really hard. Shit. I was
Man,
20.
I have
60 is
on
crazy. I don't know if I could do one.
60 of them?
it's
60
20 bar
muscle ups?
20,
Oh,
Oh, 20.
but
still.
Still, that's a lot.
Yeah.
yeah, I remember in Cleveland a couple weeks back.
Yeah, we were.
For half an hour straight, I was trying to teach Peyton how to do a correct muscle up. Kept failing over and over. And then on Saturday, a few days ago, I was like, Peyton, you're not fucking leaving this shit show town until you get a damn muscle up in. And he finally got one. And I was like, man, like I really wasted like an hour and a half of my life trying to teach this guy how to do a muscle up.
I'm surprised he can't do them. I feel like that dude is a monster.
He is. It's just the way you have like you have to like push away from the bar to get
Yeah.
up over, and it may not seem scary, but like once you're your arm's length away from the bar, so you're like, oh shit, like I'm not close, I don't have a grip, I'm scared, like
Yeah.
what happens if I let go? But I mean, you have a grip on the bar, you're not letting go, but in your mind you're like, oh shit, I can't let go, like I can't, like I have to stay close to the bar. And it's really just transitioning your mind, because like every time you do pull-ups, you're just right over that bar. It's just transitioning your mind from pushing away from that bar to get over it versus just pushing your chin up.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. That's very interesting.
They're fun to do. Once you learn how to do them, they are so fun to do.
Yeah.
Grant, can you do any?
I tried also in Cleveland and I couldn't quite get it. But I think if I spent time like perfecting the technique, I think a lot of it seems to just like my like risk aversion to like not wanting to fall and like hurt myself when I'm trying it. But I mean it's something I wanna be able to do. I mean it's a cool movement.
Hey,
I don't really train
a
a ton of calisthenics right now.
if you guys want to drive, make a 4-hour drive down south. I know a great coach who can help you guys with.
Oh yeah,
Uh-huh.
there you go. Shameless plug. I love
Shameless
it.
plug.
Good salesman right there.
There you go. Yeah.
I mean,
Colin, I'm surprised you don't enjoy running if you're doing all these if you really like these CrossFit workouts. I'm surprised you don't enjoy the
if you gave me a sandbag, I'll go run a mile with it. But if you told me to go run a mile, I am going to contemplate every decision I've made in my life.
It's so funny.
I don't know why, but I just don't get into it.
That's really funny.
It just seems boring. Like that's
It's
the main
so
thing.
boring. And like if I were to do like a trail run, like if I ran through the woods, I'd love that. I find it so much more enjoyable because like my mind can wander off. I'm like, oh shit, look at these birds, look at this fucking tree. I'm like, oh, I wonder if I can climb that tree. And then if I'm running like this, going for a run, I'm like, man, like this car is ugly as shit. Why are you driving this? Why do you have a bright pink car? And then I'm like, man, like I just can't run unless it's in the woods. I can't just go for a run.
That's interesting. Yeah, dude, you should mix in trail because trail running, like I haven't ran that many times on trails just because there's not really any near where I live. But the times that I've done it, it's really fun. My dad, so I don't know if I told you, Colin, this, Jack, you probably don't know this. My dad is he's like a big ultra marathon guy. And he's doing a 100K trail run in November out in San Francisco.
Whoa.
And he like wanted me, he like asked me if I wanted to do it. I was like, I don't know. Like, I think I could train up to it and do it because I've done the marathon distance at this point, but like I just didn't. I was like, I want to really focus on building strength right now, and then like next year once it gets warm again, doing more distance races. But
yeah, ultras are crazy. I thought I might have fell down that slippery slope when I was getting into Nick Bear's stuff because I was like, okay, I've done the half. I'm gonna start training for the full. Like it just seems like a slippery slope until you hit like you're gonna be doing 100-mile races. Like you might be doing that.
I want to do 100 in my lifetime for sure. My dad has talked about because he's done 50 milers and like this 60 I think is gonna be the longest he'll do. But he's talked about wanting to do like the Leadville 100. I don't know if you guys know what that is. But,
yeah, I've heard of it. I was super big into like Cam Hanes for a long time too.
Yeah.
So I was really far down that actually.
Yeah, Goggins too.
Yes. Yes.
Have you guys have read his book or no, Goggins?
I haven't read it, no.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah, it's very good. But he talks in that book. I think one of the crazier things he says he does in that book is he does this race called the San Diego One Day, and it's like 100 mile. 100-mile
remember-
run in like he had to do it in under 24 hours. I think he finished in like 19 hours, but he did it like with literally no training. And I was like, that's insane because I was like, I remember how I felt. I did last year at a marathon in the fall without training for it just to see if I could do it. And I ran like pretty slow, whatever. But I remember how I felt like mile like 24, 25, 26 of that. I was basically just walking. And I could not imagine going for another 74 miles after that. It'd be absolutely bonkers. But
And
yeah,
was that the one where like his feet were fractured and like his shins were broke and he was like shitting blood out of his ass
it
and
was
stuff?
something like that. It was something like that. It was pretty gross. He goes into it in the book and it's pretty graphic, but
Yeah.
it's pretty
'Cause I-
badass. I mean, I don't know. The ultra that's
know-
like another go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. You continue.
I was gonna say like that's another reason why I think I enjoy the running is not because of like it's not because I necessarily love the running aspect itself. I mean, I do find it enjoyable, especially if you're moving at a good pace and you're not like super beat up or anything. But it's like also the mental side. It's like okay, like I can I can go and run 26 miles and not stop, and like that's like a pretty it's like I can push myself beyond where I thought this limit was. And then it's just a matter of seeing like taking that one step further until you find out what maybe your actual limit is, and it's chances are it's way higher than what you actually thought. So
You guys are talking about running all these ultras and marathons. I still gotta make it to 2 miles.
come on, Colin, you can do it. You can do it. I have faith. I have faith.
I don't know. I mean, I know I can do it, but after about 400 meters, I'm like, man, this sucks. Why did I do this?
I got you.
Colin, do you meditate?
I do, but whenever I'm running, I can't meditate.
Interesting. Because I find that like if I'm not meditating, the running seems so boring. But the running is kind of an active meditation.
It is. I agree with that.
I think part of it is so like my septum right here, it's broken or it was broken. And when it healed, it's shifted. So like I can't like my nose breathing is shit. And so whenever I'm running, I'm like, fuck, like I can't even breathe correctly. Like I have no stamina. But in reality, I'm forced to mouth breathe because I can't take a good deep breath in with my nose. But after November 1st, so like a week and a few days, I'll try out running one more time. And if I can like actually breathe through my nose and like, oh shit, like I can run and not be dead. But
yeah, I think the meditative aspect of it is something that's really interesting for me. And I think it's like for me, it takes me a few miles before I really get into that zone and that runner's high. But there have been many times where I've really felt like I was like, oh damn, like I'm really feeling this runner's high right now. I'll never forget like one of the longer runs I did for training for the marathon. I went out, I was in New York City visiting my friend from college, and I was running up and down the West Side Highway out there. And like miles like 1 through like 4, I felt like just kind of slow, sluggish. I was moving at a fine speed, but I was just, feeling kind of slow and sluggish. And then like mile 5, I got to this one section where it's kind of like not as much in the city itself, and it's there's kind of just like this brick wall on one side, and then it's this kind of like boardwalky type of area. It's hard to explain, but it was much more. It felt like I was like not even in the city anymore, and it was right at the time when my run, the runner's high really started to kick in. I was like, this feels amazing. Like I want to just keep doing this all day long. So there is like definitely a meditative aspect of it there, Jack. I think I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I miss that aspect of it a little bit because I haven't gone more than like 3 or 4 in a long time. But I think you're right. Like once you get into the 4 and 5 range, and I think you have to have the stamina built up before, or else like if I got to 4 or 5 now, it would probably suck. Because I'm not built up. But when you're used to going like 13, 15, that 5 to 7 range, like that's when you're in the zone.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I agree with you for sure. You gotta have that distance built up, or else it's not gonna feel too good. 100%, man. 100%. Cool.
hey, I will say I ran cross country in middle school, and I was third best on my team. So putting that out there now, was top 3. But that was just off of pure natural athleticism.
What was your best? What was your best time, Colin?
Best 2 mile was like 12:22 or something.
It's pretty quick.
That's fast, bro.
That's pretty quick. Yeah, it's quicker. That's faster than I can run.
My practices, I was walking during practice. I was trying to talk to people and have fun.
Nice. Good shit. Cool. Those are like, I think we kind of covered all the stuff I wanted to chat about. Colin, do you have any other questions or anything for Jack?
No, I mean, I had like 2 questions, and I had a feeling
Yeah.
to just like transition into
It kind of
learning
just
about it.
flows. Yeah, I mean, this is a lot of fun. I don't know. I had a good time with this.
Yeah, I agree. This was a real. I haven't thought about a lot of these topics in a long time, so it's
Yeah.
fun to
Yeah,
bring
man.
it back to more of a fitness lens, which is
Yeah,
fun.
that's what we do here. That's trainer talk for you. That's the connecting fitness to other areas of life and kind of giving people different perspectives on this. So
I
Well,
love it.
I got one more question I just thought of.
Fire
So
away.
I'll cut all this shit out during the podcast. Don't worry. We'll make it like this shit actually flowed through. We didn't stop and talk. In the beginning, you mentioned you were starting a course. What's that about?
Oh yeah, good question.
Yeah. So right now the plan is it's going to be like 3 different sections. So the first will be a free video course around performance. So there's going to be how to get into deep work, how to do deep rest, how to access flow state, how to be a high performer, how to actively recover, how to incorporate health into all this, even some spirituality and philosophy stuff too. So it's going to be like this holistic course for how a creator could access high levels of performance. Off the back end of that, I'm going to have a paid curriculum which is going to incorporate all that performance stuff, but much more creator stuff. So, like, how do you make an offer? How do you grow on social media? How do you network? How do you turn your Twitter account into a business? All this stuff, and that'll be much more implementable with like Notion systems and my plug and play systems, content systems, all that. And then off the back end of that will be a cohort based on that curriculum with like weekly calls, guest calls, etc. So I'm aiming for the cohort opening starting around January 1st. That's the aim. The free sale for that will open Black Friday, so November 24th. And then my aim is to get that free video course out in the next 2 weeks. So I'm almost done with the last 2 modules, but it's been a grind, but it's been fun to put it together.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's really cool, man. I definitely think there's a lot of people interested in this kind of a thing, and I'm sure you'll sell quite a few copies of it once it's ready.
Yeah, we'll see. It's the first iteration, so I think it's more important just get it out there and then implement the feedback
Sure.
and then iterate, make it better and better. But yeah, I like this holistic approach to it because I love the health and fitness stuff. I love the productivity stuff. I love the social media, the business. So it's like, how can you put this all under one umbrella?
Yeah,
That's what I'm
get it all
going
under
for.
one roof. Absolutely, man. Very cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, I think we can kind of just call it here. But Jack, it's been awesome having you on, man. I'm glad we got to have this chat, and it's been a ton of fun. I don't know.
I agree. Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. And I think you guys have something cool going with this podcast.
Thanks, bro.
I think you guys complement each other very cool. Like
Oh yeah,
it's very it's a very chill vibe. I enjoyed
Sweet.
it.
Yeah, always trying to keep it chill and not super formal. Just kind of keep
Yeah.
the conversation relaxed, keep the ideas flowing and everything.
Yeah,
So
going at it more like we're friends catching up versus
I like
okay,
that.
let's sit down and like
absolutely.
let's fucking talk every single little detail about your life and why you are this way.
Yeah. No, I like that. It's cool. I appreciate you guys having me. I had a lot of fun.
Absolutely, man. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording too.